Guess who's back? Xavier finally hit the hardwood after more days off than a bad employee. So how'd they look? We'll ask Steve Wolf. Plus,
what does she bring to the table for these young men? And I honestly can just say that I bring what they need for the moment.
maneuvering in a man's world. Coming up, the story on a Woodward basketball coach making a difference and hoping to break through the glass backboard. And we are 1 week away from Super Sunday. I invited in a friend from Kansas City to help preview the matchup.
From WCPO 9 Sports, this is Sports of All Sorts.
What up? Welcome to Sports of All Sorts. I'm Reggie Wilson. For the first time since early September, we have no football on a Sunday. But it's not because of COVID. It's the pre-Super Bowl bye week. Both of our crosstown schools have been on a bye week from basketball games, but unlike the Bucks and Chiefs, it is because of COVID. One of those teams finally got back in action, and that's where we start tonight. Xavier played for the first time in 20 days Saturday night and picked up a big 68-55 road win over Butler in Indianapolis. Paul Scruggs led the way with a game-high 24 points in his return to his hometown. Adam Kunkel and Nate Johnson added double-digit scoring efforts as well. The Musketeers withstood a second-half run by the Bulldogs after getting up by as much as 20. With the win, X improves to 11-2 this season. After the game, head coach Travis Steele once again praising his senior leader.
I thought Paul played like a first-team all-conference player tonight. He was the best player on the floor, and it wasn't even close. His whole mentality, his attitude of refusing to lose. I mean, how about that offensive rebound putback that he had kind of in traffic? It just showed you his mentality, and that kind of bled out to others on the team.
Being back home is always special, and then also to get a road win at home in front of your family, like, that's just amazing, man.
So Xavier gets back into basketball and back to winning. Joining me to talk about it is Musketeers legend and CBS Sports college basketball analyst Steve Wolf. Steve, first game in 20 days. What are your thoughts on what you saw from Xavier?
It's a long time. And yesterday when they went out on the court, you're not sure what you're going to get. I thought that some of the things, I thought Scruggs did, he looked like he needed the rest, and he got it. Scruggs played very, very well. I just think Xavier's fortunate. They played a team like Butler, who's got some issues. They can work their way back into it. They started off so strong and so well, shooting the ball. But, a win's a win, and a win on the road, even in the pandemic, is very important. But there's clearly a number of things that have to change. And I think that Xavier needs more production off the bench, Reg. I mean, they're getting 7 points off the bench yesterday, and they can't do that. They have to have more production from Fremantle and from Carter. Fremantle has taken too many outside jump shots. He was 0 for 5 from the three-point line, I think. Carter's got to get touches on the low block. They have to work the ball inside. The only real strong inside paint points they get are from the guards that are dribble drive into the basket. So I think that's going to have to change. But, for the first time out, after what they've gone through, man, I'll take it in a heartbeat. Up by 20 at one point in time. That was a pretty good showing.
Especially considering all the time away. How tough is it to find that rhythm when there is so much uncertainty with the pandemic?
Well, I think it's for everybody. Everybody's going through this pandemic, and it's the way you look at it. I have 2 kids that are playing college sports right now, and I just tell them, nothing's given. Every day is not given to you, and every basketball or football or volleyball game is not given to you. So I think it's really hard if you're a player, you sit there and you're excited and you're ready. Practice is a necessary evil to get you to the games. You want to be with your guys out there doing what you do. It's really hard. And for the coaches, it's even harder because they got a game plan. They have things they want to get in. I mean, Travis Steele has got a pretty complex offense and defense that these guys have to really get used to using and playing in it. And right now, when you have this downtime, film doesn't do it. You got to be together. You got to be playing. And I think that's why I think getting those games out earlier in the year really helped them. But then, they paused. So I think this is arguably one of the hardest years for college kids, whether you play a sport or not. But to play at a high level like Xavier does in the Big East, they need to really pick it up. And, it's mid-season, and they're in preseason form. And that's hard to do.
Steve, X sits at 11-2 this season. There have been times that this team has looked really good. They're fighting to get back to Indianapolis. How do you see them getting there?
I hear because I'm from Cincinnati, and it's different. When I'm doing games and I'm out and about and I talk to people, they go, "Oh my gosh, Xavier is really good. Xavier's this, Xavier's that." When you talk to the alums, they're complaining because it's ugly. And I'm like, I've never seen an ugly 11-2 team. I don't care. You're 11-2, 10-2. It's not, and you're playing ugly. Hey, you're winning the games. This is a team that's going to get better, and they're still winning. They've won 2 games on last-second shots. They beat Providence, who's a pretty darn good team, and they're going to get better and better. One of the best coaches in the Big East. So I think it's going to be interesting. When they have to play Villanova, I think they're right on par with Seton Hall. Villanova is obviously head and shoulders above everybody else, but I think this is a team that if you talk to me about, certain times during a game, is this team, what's their record? I don't know. Is it 2-11 or is it 11-2? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter in pieces of the game. It's how you finish at the end. And these guys have been finishing. You got to give them credit for that. And it's exciting to watch. They're up by 20, and my son's texting me from Wisconsin telling me how great this team is. And then 10 minutes later, he goes, "Dad, what happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So it's that's what's great about it. And I got to give my kudos to Travis Steele and his coaching staff to keeping these guys honed in. They played hard. They didn't play smart all the time, but they played hard. They turned the ball over a little bit too much at the end of the game. But this is a team I think will be a team to reckon with in the Big East. The Big East is not there's more parity in the Big East now than there has been in the last couple of years. So this is a good year for Xavier to come out of their shell a little bit. They're shooting the ball a lot better. We'll see where things end up.
Steve, I always appreciate talking to you. Take care. So I want to hear from you. Xavier continues to trend in the right direction when they do get a chance to play. My question is, how far do you see the Musketeers going this season? Tweet me at Reggie Wilson TV and make sure to use the hashtag SOAS. Well, she's got game, and she's also a key member of the Woodward boys basketball team. Coming up, how Coach Mack sticks out but is right at home with her Hoops family. Welcome back. Meet Coach Mack. Allison McCarthy is a basketball Hall of Famer from her own time at Holmes and NKU. These days, she's answered the call at Woodward. Keenan Singleton has the story on her pioneering spirit with the Bulldogs.
Not ask you to give us anything, but we're going to work for it and earn what we get.
The prayer doesn't come from Allison McCarthy's mouth, but the words are her testimony.
Amen. Amen.
She's a woman, a white woman in a black man's world.
Good job, Joe.
She's changed the glass ceiling into a glass backboard.
It's your second season as the lone female and the lone white face with the boys basketball team at Woodward. So clearly you've taken the road less traveled. My question is, why do it?
Believe me, I get looks, I get questions, I get, the head turns like, what is she going to do exactly? What does she bring to the table for these young men? And I honestly can just say that I bring what they need for the moment.
She isn't there to answer prayers, but is there when the Bulldogs need her most. Sometimes it's taking out an earring or being a tutor.
If I get a text at 2 o'clock in the morning asking for math homework, I give them a call and we work through a math problem.
Or even a ride to the dentist, like junior forward Kelce Fry once needed.
The young men that I coach, they just want to be successful. And the young men, the grown men that I work with, they're part of the solution. They're helping the situation.
At times, she's Mama Mac, dishing out life lessons like assist. But make no mistake, she's Coach Mac first. Her tutelage helped Fry add some shake to his postgame.
Taught me a lot, actually. I think she's the reason why my postgame is how it is now.
It was her work as the head coach with the girls at Woodward that first caught Jarrell Redden's attention.
What did you see in Coach Mack that said, this is somebody I need on my staff? Passion.
They suggested it. It wasn't like I went knocking, applying for a job. They saw something in me that was going to fit with what they were trying to build and do.
I think that's just how good of a coach she is. She just blends in with the group.
When Coach Redden says jump in, I jump in. And I've scored on several of them. I won't say names to embarrass them.
Her work speaks for itself. In time, the hope is more men listen.
Women can do this and they can be recognized for what they have to offer. even in a man's world. And that's what the goal is.
Love that. We just heard our next guest, Kenan Singleton, joins the show to talk some more Coach Mack. Kenan, thanks so much for taking some time with me. This was a fascinating story. How did it come about?
Just doing our usual Friday night kind of wraparounds, man. You know, you got to be all around the city covering these high school basketball games. And I was at a Woodward Hughes game a couple of weeks back and saw this woman on the court putting the guys through the drills, putting them through the paces. She's wearing these boots, you know, sharp dress. And I'm like, what's going on here? So, you know, stepped to her, asked her what she was doing. She's like, yeah, I'm assistant coach here. And, you know, as that night went on, I was like, this could be something. I mean, during that game or before the game, she took out one of the players' earrings and got them all together. So you could see that, you know, she had a really close bond with these guys. And the more I got to talk to her and more I got to know, she has a close bond with them on the court and off the court.
Yeah, let's get more into it. She's a woman in a man's world. She's a white woman in a predominantly black man's world, but she fits right into the culture.
Yeah, she really does. I think her background of going to Holmes High School, which is in Northern Kentucky, but is a more racially diverse high school than some of the other Northern Kentucky high schools that you might go to. So she is absolutely comfortable being around, you know, black men, black young men. And she's really fit like a glove with that whole program. Everybody seems to really appreciate what she brings, not just off the court, because I think a lot of people think of her as, you know, maybe she's Mama Mack. And there are some aspects of it, which we kind of touched on in the piece, but she's really Coach Mack first and foremost. And they really respect what she's been able to bring to their post players. One of the guys I talked to, Kelce Fry, in the piece, you know, he raved about what she was able to kind of bring to diversify his game.
Kenan, we've seen how women have been integrated into majority male spaces. The old caveman or archaic thought is, what can she possibly add to this player's game? What did you learn?
It's wild to think of just how commonplace it is to see a man coaching, you know, young women, and that it's not, the inverse is just totally, as you mentioned, it's something that's super rare. It's an archaic thought, caveman thought, as you mentioned, that we don't see women coaching young men because, you know, truth be told, a lot of young boys, they don't have male figures in the home. So their first teacher of not just life, but of the game of basketball, a lot of times is a woman. So it's weird to me that, you know, that it's still such a weird thought to see a woman being able to coach these young boys. So, you know, she definitely feels like she's not a pioneer exactly, but she wants to be able to lead the next generation of women into being able to coach men at some point, because it's long overdue. It's really no reason why a woman shouldn't be able to coach a men's team. And I think I definitely hope that it's something that we see something in our lifetime.
Yeah, I hope so too. Kenan, you've taken a keen interest in doing women's stories over the last year, whether it's been Kelce Mitchell and the WNBA's fight on social justice, Jillian Hayes exercising her right to vote, or Sydney Moss. What's inspired this effort?
I mean, my mom, I'll be straight up. I mean, my mom was a basketball player, and my whole family, I come from a family of basketball players. I didn't get the gene, unfortunately. Even though I'm 6'6", I just never really took to basketball like that. But I mean, I got not only my love of sports from my mom, but I got my love of sports on television, sports debate, all that stuff that kind of comes along when you see televised sports. So it's not a direct kind of tribute to my mom, but I think internally it had to have gotten imprinted on me somehow that this was somewhat of a tribute to my mom, because I think women, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it just as much as a lot of other men are, that we overlook girls sports. We overlook young lady sports that we in college. We overlook women's sports when it comes to professional leagues. One of my first jobs was actually covering the WNBA and covering the Sparks. So it's something I've dealt with for a long time. And I don't mean dealt with in a negative connotation, but it's something that I've always appreciated, because there comes that extra level of scrutiny when it comes to women. And there are fabulous stories when it comes to scrutiny being able to overcome.
Kenan, as always, I appreciate it. The Chiefs are going for back-to-back Super Bowl wins. Coming up, how Bengals fans can glean some optimism from the situation. Welcome back. We are 1 week away from Super Bowl 55, and I thought I'd check in with a fellow Mizzou grad and sports anchor for our sister station, 41 Action News in Kansas City, my guy Aaron Ladd. Aaron, welcome to the show. This is your first year covering the Chiefs, and they're going back to the Super Bowl. What has this experience been like for you?
I was just telling a friend the other day, this is the golden era of Chiefs football. You got to soak this in. This is a once in a generation type team. It's a once in a generation type talent and Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And honestly, it's got a real Warriors feel to it, Reggie. Like, it's sexy, man. Like, it sells itself. It's Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce playing against Tom Brady in his 10th Super Bowl. I mean, it's almost like Christmas Day for NFL fans in February.
From a Cincinnati standpoint, this fan base has been starved for meaningful wins. When Marvin Lewis was here, the team won, but they went 0-7 in the postseason. Kansas City has been a city that finally gets over the hump, and it's been fun times ever since. Give the Bengals fans some hope.
I want to go back to what you said about, Marvin Lewis and the turnover there. I thought the one thing about Marvin Lewis that made it tougher, obviously, for them to let him go in that time period was that he had been there so long. He had instilled his culture there in Cincinnati. Obviously, they felt like they needed to make a change in order to get over whatever the hump was. But his culture had gotten them to a point to where they were a consistent ball club, right? You knew what to expect from their team every time they went out there on Sunday. Now moving that over to the Chiefs, you know what to expect from an Andy Reid coached team going out every day on Sunday. And you saw that in Philadelphia. He got laid off for the same reason that Marvin Lewis did, right? His culture was great, but he couldn't get over the hump. He couldn't get us to the big game where he couldn't win the big game. Now he molds that culture with the talent that's here in Kansas City, with Patrick Mahomes now the youngest quarterback to start 2 Super Bowls, Tyreek Hill the fastest guy in the league, Travis Kelce the best tight end who could also be the best wide receiver in the league. It's generational. Covering a winner, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I bet, but a lot of fun too. Aaron, you mentioned Travis Kelce. He obviously is beloved around these parts. He's a guy that played Wildcat QB in his early days at UC. He's now one of, if not the best tight end in the game. What's it been like covering him every week?
His growth and maturity has been storied amongst this year's Chiefs squad. He's undoubtedly one of the leaders of the team, voted a team captain for the postseason. And you talked about him being a wildcat guy and a gadget guy in college. I think Andy Reid described him as the wild horse his first couple of years here in Kansas City, because you just sometimes a wild horse bucks and you don't really know what to expect, and they're kind of unique, and Travis Kelce is certainly unique. It's been cool seeing not only what he's been able to do on the field, but also off the field. You can't talk enough about what he does with his foundation, 87 and running, and Operation Breakthrough here in Kansas City. And a lot of that work that he did during a pandemic this year, Reggie, during one of the strangest years that we've ever had, got him nominated by his teammates for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And he's actually one of the finalists for the award after winning some charity social media thing. There's not enough positive things you can say about Travis Kelce, because every Sunday he goes out and proves it, right? Like, this is a guy that, like, the defensive coordinators are saying, okay, we need to get Kelce and Hill and Kelce. And he still goes out there and gets 15 targets, 13 catches for 140 yards in a playoff game. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Still writing the rest of his story, too. I wanted to ask you about Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. He got passed over yet again for a head coaching job. He's a former Bengal and was a candidate for the job that eventually went to Zach Taylor here. What are your thoughts about EB and all of the rhetoric around why he isn't landing any of these jobs?
At this point, Eric Bieniemy is overqualified to be an NFL head coach, especially based off what the hiring process was this last time around. I mean, the Ravens passing game coordinator, it was the most recent hire to go to the Houston Texans. The case with Eric Bieniemy is a complicated one, in my opinion. I think a lot of the times the rhetoric around him has almost become noise and distractions. When teams pass up on Eric Bieniemy, they have to have a reason why at this point, right? Like, for a long time we heard, oh, he doesn't interview well. For a long time we heard, oh, he had an off the field arrest in the 90s, which is insane that is still coming up. But it's no longer about what he's doing. I know another one of the knocks on him was, oh, he doesn't call the plays. But the Eric Bieniemy thing is disappointing in a lot of different ways, especially for a league that said at the beginning of the year that Black Lives Matter for the first time ever after having 70% of Black lives in their league. You would think that they would say Black Lives Matter enough to put them in positions of power and not just on press releases once a year, especially when, like we said, Eric Bieniemy is overqualified. It's disappointing and not rooting for the Chiefs, but I hope that his resume is bolstered by another Super Bowl win here.
We'll see what happens. Well, Aaron, enjoy the conversation. Have fun covering the Super Bowl. MIZ.
Hey, ZOU. Stay safe out there, man.
Yes, sir. You too. We'll be right back to wrap up the show. Welcome back. Well, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun, but we got to go. I'd like to thank my guests Steve Wolf, Keenan Singleton, and Aaron Ladd for joining me tonight. And thank you to my village who helped me put this all together. Thank you for watching. Let's do it again next Sunday. Until then, have a good night and a very blessed week.